Welcome to the Rancher's Voice, presented by the Montana Stockgrowers Association. I'm Jay Bodner, MSGA's Executive Vice President.
And I'm Raylee Honeycutt, Director of Natural Resources. Join us for conversations surrounding policy, the legislature, and issues that matter most to ranching families in Montana.
Welcome to this week's episode. We had a busy week, so we're just going to jump right into updates from last week and also take a look at what's coming up for the week.
And a few reminders for our audience to make sure to subscribe to the Rancher's Voice, follow us on social, and make sure to like, share, and comment on each episode. If you have questions for us, feel free to email us at Kenny, Keni, @mtbeef.org.
So last week, we did have the pleasure of getting in on the confirmation hearing for Mike Foster for the Department of Ag. So that is a confirmation hearing, SR 55. It was heard in the House Committee. And we did get to stand up and support just from our working relationship with Mr. Foster in his previous position and really for a long time in ag. It was a pleasure to get up there and support him.
Definitely. And then moving on, we moved into quite a few appropriation bills. The first one I'm going to talk about is House Bill 2. That is a large budget bill. We've previously spoke about this bill, but it encompasses a variety of different budgets. MSU Ag Experiment Station's budget, Department of Livestock, and Department of Natural Resources. So last week, the Ag Experiment Station, we testified on behalf of that, as well as DNRC's budget.
Yeah, in addition to that, we had House Bill 14. So that was one of our priorities, and it included the veterinary diagnostic lab. It also did include the ag experiment stations and the wool lab. We focused specifically on the veterinary diagnostic lab, and we did have the pleasure. We had Jim Steinbeiser, our president, came down and testified in person, and we did have a number of members that did go online and testify in support. So we had just a great showing for agriculture and talked a lot about just the importance of a veterinary diagnostic lab, what it does, what it provides to not only agriculture, but really the state of Montana. So it was a great hearing.
And I think just from that hearing standpoint, there's a lot more momentum than we probably thought initially going in. So it's exciting to see that people are really talking about and supporting the potential for having a new veterinary diagnostic lab.
Yeah, we do really have a lot of broad support for that. So I would agree. Yeah, it's exciting news.
Yeah. From a business standpoint, Senate Bill 65, which is the Liabilities Act for businesses that we've talked about. This is the governor's first bill that he kind of rolled out when he came into the administration. We're happy to report that has now passed the legislature and is headed to the governor's desk. So we would anticipate seeing that bill being signed in the very near future.
In addition to that, we had Senate Bill 105. This dealt specifically with trespassing for folks that are collecting horns, antlers, kind of the horn hunters. And it was kind of specific. It looked specific to just fish and game lands. As we sat in executive action when they had this, it did include private property. So we did work with the sponsor and a couple of the committee members to draw up an amendment that did clarify that it did include also private property. And so with that, this is a bill that moving forward, we will be able to support. It was a good amendment and it is a good bill. So we want to make sure that, anybody that is infringed upon their private property from horn hunters, then they're going to be subject to the same types of fines that anybody is trespassing.
Yeah, and then moving kind of into the natural resources world, Senate Bill 143, a few of you have actually reached out to our office and discussed and asked some questions about this bill. But this bill was in regards to outfitter licenses and that situation. And so that bill, and we went in support of it, that bill has the opportunity to raise an additional $2.8 million in revenue to develop block public lands access, as well as support other access programs. And so we stood in support during that first hearing on Senate Bill 143.
Yeah, and it does sound like there is going to be some amendments to that bill, so we expect that to change somewhat as it goes through the process. Just kind of moving on, Senate Bill 136, this dealt with really how DNRC looks at water availability, and the term legal availability was put in there. It basically just mirrors the process that DNRC went through for basically the last decades. It did get changed a bit just from a recent court case. So this just refers back to how DNRC interpreted that law prior to this court case. So that is a bill we did go in and support.
And kind of the last bill that we testified was in opposition of Senate Bill 161 at the end of the week, or middle of the end of the week. That bill is in regards to an exemption for subdivision and developments that are within incorporated cities and towns. Our main concern with that was the exemption would not look at ag lands or facilities. And our concern is that a lot of land still zoned for production agriculture are on the fringe of those cities. And so with that exemption not putting the agricultural impact into that assessment, that raised concerns for us. We are currently working with sponsors of that bill, and hopefully we'll get to some next steps that we all can agree upon.
Yeah. We're also just watching just a number of bills that we continue to watch. House Bill 163, that revises the Fishing and Wildlife Commission members. House Bill 224, this would allow, for the snaring of wolves in Montana. House Bill 225, this also lengthens the season on wolf trapping season. Senate Bill 106, this dealt with the veterinary technicians, vet techs. This bill was tabled, so as of right now, that bill is dead. Senate Bill 164, this also dealt with non-degradation standards for nitrates. And from a non-point source, we always watch these kind of bills just to see what potential impact that may have on us in agriculture as a non-point source.
So that wraps up kind of what we were working on for the week of February 1st. Moving into the week of February 8th, a lot of hearings packed into this week as well. So we started out the week with Senate Resolution 53. That was the confirmation of the Director Amanda Castor to the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation. We testified on behalf of her in that hearing and are looking forward to the executive action and her moving forward as the director of the agency. We also are very excited to work with her. She comes with a great portfolio of knowledge in the natural resources space, and has reached out to us, and we've met with her and look forward to continuing to meet with her in her new position.
Yeah, we also look forward to potentially having her on the podcast so everybody else can get to meet her too. So
definitely. Another bill we are standing in support of is House Bill 303. That is the revised business equipment tax law under the Business Investment Grows or Big Jobs Act. That is sponsored by Representative Josh Kazmaier, but is a bill coming from the governor's office. Tuesday morning was the hearing for that bill, and really what it does is adds an additional $100,000 more in tax reductions for business equipment taxes. That will effectively benefit roughly 4,000 businesses in Montana and many producers, farmers, and ranchers across the state.
Yeah, we've worked pretty consistently through the past legislative sessions to eliminate it, but this does increase that exemption from 100 to 200,000. So it is a good step in the right direction to hopefully at some point eliminate that business equipment tax.
Yeah. And the governor, and I would say the Department of Revenue, has put a lot of work into making sure that bill pencils out, and they've done a great job there. And then the last bill I wanted to highlight for my portion is Senate Bill 58. You have heard us talking about that bill. It is now in the second chamber, and so it will be presented in front of the House Ag Committee this week. That is to provide the fund transfer for the livestock losses. It adds $100,000 into additional restricted account to reduce predation, and also it's for non-lethal and preventative measures. So hopefully it moved quickly through the Senate. Hopefully it will move quickly through the House, and we will get that to the governor's desk soon.
Yeah, and also on Tuesday, we did get the opportunity to sit with the Senate Judiciary Committee, and there was a couple of bills on that. We had SR 12. That's the confirmation hearing for the Associate Water Judge, Montana Water Court Judge, Stephen Brown. He's served in that role for the last couple of years, and then they have to go and get reconfirmed in front of the Senate. He's done a good job, I think, from our perspective of moving the adjudication forward. He has a good broad knowledge. We want that adjudication to move efficiently but accurately, and we think he does a good job. In addition to that, we also did support Senate Bill 140. This deals specifically with how replacement judges are appointed and chosen. In this bill specifically, there is a judicial nomination commission, and it would eliminate that. It would allow the governor to choose those replacement judges, and then eventually, as they go through, they would finish that term and then have to go through their normal election. It creates, I think, a little bit more efficiency. It takes some of the partisanship potentially out of choosing these judges. So that is and frankly, from agriculture, we want to make sure that no judges gets dismissed that potentially would have a broad range of agricultural backgrounds and natural resource background and would be a good fit for a judge. So we did stand in support. Also kind of moving on, we have House Bill 94. This expands just the loan types for the farmer loan repayment assistance program. This program was put in statute last session, and so it would add private loans to the federal loans that are eligible for this. This week also, we do get the opportunity to confirm the governor's appointment for the Director of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. This confirmation is for Hank Warshek. He's been involved in the department for a number of years. He's been involved certainly in the licensing provision, but also many others. We worked directly with him with the Private Lands Public Wildlife, PLPW group, which we know that he's willing to work with landowners, and so we'll be standing in support of him.
Then later in the week, we have two bison bills that will have hearings in the House Ag Committee. I'm going to kind of cluster them together because they have similar language. So the first one is House Bill 311. That is to clarify jurisdiction of wild bison transfers to Indian reservations. And ultimately what that bill is saying is that a state health certificate is not needed for wild bison coming from an Indian reservation or a national park to have to get health inspected prior to going to an Indian reservation, unless the department shows a clear and convincing evidence of the need for that animal to be inspected and have significant danger to public health. So that's the first bill that we'll be hearing. And then the second bill will be House Bill 312. That will allow for wild buffalo or wild bison to be quarantined on Indian reservations without a brucellosis-free health certificate. We will be standing in opposition of both of those. Obviously, from an organizational standpoint, keeping that brucellosis-free status is very crucial for our industry and important to our members. And so really keeping bison that are potentially positive for brucellosis in that DSA while being quarantined is something that we will advocate for throughout the session.
Yeah, we've seen these bills before and been successful in defeating them, and so we will take that same position once again. Moving on with just the Senate Ag Committee, we'll have the opportunity this week to look at some more confirmation hearings for the appointments for the livestock loss program. So that would include Elaine Alstead, Doreen Gillespie, and then Joe Kipp. So we'll be supporting them. And then also Board of Livestock has some appointments. So right now that's scheduled for Gene Curry, who are past president of Montana Stockgrowers, and then Alan Redfield, who's also a member of Montana Stockgrowers. So we're glad to be able to stand up and support them and anticipate that confirmation hearing will go good, and we'll have them on the board of livestock.
And then there's a slew of other board confirmations kind of that falls under that Senate Ag Committee too. So some of you may be interested in it, but the Board of Hail Insurance, the Board of Milk Control, and the Board of Veterinary Medicine will also have confirmation hearings on Thursday.
Well, we do have the distinct pleasure once again this week of having join us Senator Mike Lang. He is currently the chairman of the Senate Ag Committee, and Senator Lang has been a strong supporter of ag, and we're glad to have him join us today. So welcome, Senator Lang. All right, welcome everybody. Today we are joined by Senator Mike Lang. Senator Lang up from the Malta country. Welcome, Senator Lang.
Thank you, Jay, and hello to you, Raylee.
Hello.
Maybe we'll just start off, Senator Lang, if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I've always been a lover of agriculture. I was born and pretty much raised in Malta, Montana. I've lived in Wolf Point, Montana, Miles City, Montana, attended Carroll College, and then ended up graduating with a economics business degree from Eastern. In 1981, my wife and I moved back there. Prior to 81, I'd worked for ConAgra and had done some alcohol fuels things. And so we started a business in Malta in 81 called Northern Ag Service. Just sold fertilizer, sold management plans versus selling fertilizer or selling equipment. We always had a reason for doing it. Sold Lumix, Concord air drills, did that for 40 years and raised our children in Malta and did a lot of traveling back in, before I started Northern Ag, I traveled in Western North Dakota and Eastern Montana for a safflower company. And then after I sold Northern Ag, I did the same thing for a grain protecting company. And so I've been all over that part of the state. I love that part of the state. I love the plains. I love the diversity of the plains. And then we sold the business and my wife consented that I could come to Helena and represent the citizens. So that's where it's at.
That was very nice of her.
Very much so, yes.
I can say just from our standpoint, we're very appreciative of your ag background and just your willingness to work with ag and support ag and just being a real leader and champion for us at the legislature. And so we certainly do appreciate your commitment to agriculture and what you do up there at the legislature.
Yeah, I've every year I've been here, I've served on an ag committee, either in the House or in the Senate, and been involved with policy issues related to agriculture. And, I think that's one thing that we in ag don't do. We don't blow our horn very much. We are the largest industry in this state with just direct revenues. But when you throw in the indirects of the fertilizer, the machinery, the cars, the fuel, nobody can touch us. I'm sorry. They think they want to beat us and who's number one in the state. But ag is there right now and will continue to be. That's just the nature of Montana.
So you mentioned the ag committees, and you are currently the chair of the Senate Ag, Livestock, and Irrigation Committee. And so on your committee, you guys have been charged with, or you will oversee the governor's agricultural appointments. So can you walk our listeners a little bit through the process of how those appointments come to the committee and then the appointment process within the committee?
Sure. I think the governor did a great job this year of asking the people to step up. And I want to commend all the people that stepped up, not just the ones that became the director, but everybody that put their name in there to get involved with Montana politics through their livelihood. So then the governor nominates some people after this process that he went through. And then a bill is drafted. It's called a resolution and comes to the Senate. The Senate is the confirmation of these appointments. And we do most of the ones that deal with agriculture. And, we have very proudly confirmed the new director of agriculture, Mike Foster. I think the Department of Ag has done a good job, but we need to step out of the box. And I think Mr. Foster wants to do that. We know ag is a big business, and I think he will do that. So then the confirmation goes to our committee. We have the person who's being up for confirmation comes and talks, and then people come in and talk about the person. And I would suppose we could have some opponents, but that has not happened yet. And then it's voted on by the committee and exec, like we do all bills, and then it goes to the Senate floor. And from there, the appointment is made to the governor if it makes it through the Senate.
Yeah,
some of them that we do, you know what we do. We do Board of Milk. You probably don't know this, but I was 1967. I was on the national milk judging team in Des Moines, Iowa, and represented Montana in that thing. We took second. Kind of a remarkable when you haven't been around dairy cows too much. Like I say, we will approve the Board of Livestock. One of the candidates there is Alan Redfield coming in, and I hope he can be confirmed. He's a past legislature. He still gets mud on his boots and works with the cattle business. And then the Hale Board, another big part of Department of Ag, will be in. Livestock Loss Board, that's some of the bills that come here. We're having a lot of livestock loss from predation. It's a part of issues that will continue to be in front of Montana, and we love to support that. So we've heard how they can be on there, and we also confirm that board. But we're just doing our job, and whatever comes. And I have a great committee. It's very diverse, and I'm really pretty excited about the opposite party of me. The people who are on there, they seem concerned about it, and they want to be involved. And it's our part to pass the bills and get education on the things.
Yeah, I'd just like to commend you on the hearing for Director Foster. It was certainly a nice opportunity, and it was a good opportunity just for us to even promote some of the good work he's done, and I think he will do a tremendous job for the Department of Ag. And so, yeah, we certainly are looking forward to him, and we were glad that we had the opportunity to get up there and support him.
Yeah. It's that's like all of us, we're put in the spotlight a little bit and we're expected to perform, and hopefully that will happen. Hopefully it happens in my career up here and also with his. The other part of it, the ag, is we deal with the ag bills that are specific to the operations, but everybody on ag is concerned about natural resources, about property taxes, about private property rights. Those are the things that, we won't see a lot of bills there because they go to other committees, property taxation, but it's a big part of the ag culture here, and we all communicate and talk how that can be done.
You did kind of mention also just on your ag committee, a number of those are consistent legislators that have been on ag before. You do have a couple of new faces, but looks like a pretty good diverse group that are pretty committed to ag. And you do get a range of bills that kind of come across your desk in front of the committee. And so maybe you could just talk a little bit about a few of the highlights for our listeners.
Well, I think, we've seen some bills that have to protect the Association of Agriculture. We have our Board of Veterinary Medicine. We all have vets in our communities. They have people that work for them. We have the vet tech bill, which is a way that they want to pass testing and make sure those people have a licensure to help with the vets. I think that's a good thing. The milk people are here, forward contracting. Everybody, it's kind of amazing to me. Jay, we've had forward contracting in the grain and the cattle all of our lives. You sell the calves for fall delivery. You sell the grain and you deliver on a forward contract, but the milk has never had that. I think it will help out and give them some better sales. We got grizzly bears. That bill is contentious in some ways, but I think it lends to the bill of agriculture being process, part of the process of all wildlife. And this grizzly bear is the only animal of the wildlife that eats things in relation to people. And we got to really look at that.
Yeah, certainly from grizzly bears, they've created tremendous amount of challenges for the livestock industry as those numbers go up and as they increase their habitat. And the depredations on grizzly bears and livestock are certainly on an upward trend that is pretty challengeable for us. And we don't, the tools in the toolbox to deal with that are pretty limited from livestock. So it's important for the state to be looking at that, although we need the federal government to make some moves and delist them so we can have a little bit more tools in the toolbox to deal with some of those conflicts.
Yeah, and in that line, whether it's sage grouse or grizzly bears, we have to work with the Montana Department of Fish and Wildlife and put them more in charge, just like we did at the wolf. We've seen some good things there, or as good as it can be, with them managing the system. And that's the other part that I personally get involved with, is sage grouse. I think it's a very big thing to make sure that they understand that wildlife and all this stuff is a nest egg in agriculture. That's where it all comes from. We're the caretakers, and then people go out and get to use public enjoyment of seeing the wildlife. But they're on ag land, landowner land, and that's where it all starts.
Well, in addition to the kind of highlights that you hit that you've been seeing in your Senate Ag Committee, you have quite a few bill drafts and placeholders out there. And so we just wanted to see if you had any bills that you wanted to highlight for our listeners to kind of keep a lookout for that you're personally working on, or that will be rolling out in the near future.
Well, I have one that it's dear to my heart. It's not an ag bill per se, but it's ag people. It's helping with teacher recruitment in the state of Montana. The governor has put some money in there so we can pay some new, better wages for new teachers. And then in the ag lands, rural communities, basically, say a young girl comes out there, marries a rancher, she's a teacher. Some reason they take over the whole ranch. She quits teaching for a while or raises a family and then goes out the ranch. And then she finally says, hey, I want to go back and teach. And some of the rules of the public unions have not let that happen. I'm trying to change that so that we can fill the gap of teacher shortages. Hopefully the gap will be small. We have a gap right now. We don't have a lot of people being educated in the teacher realm, and want to fill that. We want to invite teachers to rural Montana and help us with our schools. That's one of them for sure. One that I think taxpayers should be paid back. I have not got this bill through, but it's an idea in the sage grouse world. We do mitigation costs for someone to do something in sage grouse territory. And what this bill will do is, let's, for instance, you got to pay $100,000 for mitigation on a project. Then the state of Montana will be directed to take $10,000 of that and refer it to the general fund. And the bill dies when we get the $10 million back that we gave sage grouse to start this program. And that money all came from the taxpayers. And I want to pay the taxpayers back. It'll take a long time, but hopefully a little bit is better than nothing. And then another bill on state lands. I wasn't around, and not many of us were, but some of my counties have an higher percentage of state lands. They bring in lots of revenue for the state. Daniels County, for instance, those state lands came to their county via the Glacier National Park. They didn't want state lands in a national park, so they took them to Daniels. Causes a lot of property tax issues for that county, and I'm trying to figure out how to take care of that fairly. We all have obligations to take care of one another, and that's part of it. I hope that bill goes through too.
Great. I know the sage grouse has been a challenge with the mitigation, and you've done a tremendous amount of work over the past few years to smooth out some of the bumps in the road. Do we want to maintain state management? We want a program, but we still don't want it to impede business out there in Montana. And it has had some challenges, but I think we are seeing some successes in figuring out some of those challenges and fixing some of those problems.
Yeah, it's a little tough for ag to swallow that when you know that sage grouse are doing well, and our numbers since the inception of the program have shown that we are growing. We are doing, agriculture is doing a great job of managing wildlife, and sage grouse is a part of that. And so, yes, we're just trying to make it so we can do business. And I'd like all my rural co-ops to not have the same problems, but we're working around those best we can.
Yeah, certainly on the tax front, I know that the governor is going to be rolling out a package to look at doing some reduction in taxes and business equipment tax. And I think we put all that tax package together, that affects each and every one of us, and certainly in agriculture. And a little bit of comprehensive tax reform will go a long way in our state.
Yes, well, I'm not on tax committees. I surely support the governor in getting rid of or lowering the business tax and making it more profitable. Our agriculture can raise anything. We've been able to do that, whatever the challenge might be, but we want to get paid for it, and that has not always happened.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much, Senator Lang, for joining us. I know our listeners appreciate you spending some time with us and just allowing them to hear a little bit more about what you're doing and working on up in Helena.
Well, I thank both you and Jay, Raylee, for doing this. I think, as you know, the beef industry is a great part of our state, and we're working on that too. The first week in ag, we brought in Director Honeycutt. Do you know that guy, Director Honeycutt?
I do know him, yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Hamill, and we talked about how can we help this beef processing system, which is a big thing right now. So we'd all rather, all of us that are raised on these farms and ranch, we know that beef that's there is a lot better than what we buy elsewhere.
Absolutely. Very proud of our product, and we'd like to share it with the world.
That's right. Right.
I'd like to thank Senator Lang for joining us today. From the interview, you can certainly see that he's a strong supporter of agriculture, and we're glad to have him in that position. So next week, we're going to have Josh Kazmaier, Representative Josh Kazmaier, and he is the chairman of the House Ag Committee. So he'll be joining us next week. So we'll be looking forward to that also.
Yeah, we would just like to thank each of you for joining us today and listening. Make sure to subscribe to The Rancher's Voice. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And make sure to like, share, and comment on each episode. We would love to hear from you, so send us your questions at Kenny@KENI@mtbeef.org. And thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you next week.